I am a medical intuitive. I have a unique gift that enables me to medically detect the most complicated of illnesses. I am able to profile these illnesses medically. Yet, the techniques I use are completely alternative. Over the years, I have successfully diagnosed and treated cases that have defied even the best of medical practices. We all have our divine purpose, and this is mine.
Are you sick? And every doctor in town does not know what's wrong with you? Don't throw in a towel. There's hope for you. Health Haven Clinic will amaze you with their ability to diagnose and treat successfully. A clinic that does what doctors can't do. For bookings, call 041 484 1555. You won't be sorry.
Welcome to another episode of the Doctor Alternative Show. My name is Carol. Your divinely guided medical intuitive and presenter is Tembi. Hi, Tembi.
Hello.
Tembi, let's rush straight into it. I know we've got an information, action-filled episode this week. From the last 2 episodes, I've been noticing how difficult it is for medical conventional doctors to actually diagnose. And this is quite a predicament because, this is like the first stage of treatment, which should be the point of departure. It should be in the right direction.
Yeah.
What is your comment?
Yeah, it's a big problem. It really is a big problem because, like you correctly say, before you can treat someone, you need to know what you're treating. And if you and like you are mentioning about the 2 episodes that have passed, you can see how 2 cases were so badly diagnosed,
Absolutely.
such that the treatment that followed was kind of disastrous. The treatment and the lack of treatment.
Yeah.
Because one, there was no treatment, the other was wrong treatment.
Correct.
But both of them were based on wrong diagnosis. So, and I watch this almost every day in my line of work, where you find someone has had an operation they've removed. Just yesterday I was with someone from our church who's got a pin that was screwed on his neck. And I was asking, and every time while we're sitting and chatting, he's sitting on the couch, then he's sitting at the edge, because he's restless.
Sure.
He's restless, and he says he's in pain all the time.
Wow.
And I was asking, what happened? Why did you fall? Or he said, no, he just became numb on his hands. And then he did feel and then they said they needed to straighten his neck. So he's sitting with that pin. And I even asked, is it possible for that operation to be undone so that the pin is removed? Because I said, I actually want to attend. And he showed me a side of his neck and he said, he doesn't know because it was because they removed a part from the side of his neck and they put it there. It sounded so messy.
Absolutely.
So what I'm getting at is I come across so many of such cases. Once there is a surgical procedure, the surgery involved, I always get concerned. Some will find the colon has been removed.
Absolutely, we've seen so many of those.
And then joined, and then you find it doesn't heal. Then the person is always wet and all that. Then they come and they want to know if you can help to heal I deal with such a mess.
This is scary.
It frustrates me a lot. But you find cases like, for instance, the cases that I would like to talk about. They come with their report with the scan report, which actually show some shades. But then when we get to that part, I will actually show how even in such cases, how wrong they do become.
But you know, Tembi, listening to all these scenarios every week, and it is every week, I know there have been so many incorrect diagnoses, but I also remember so many of people that have had the sudden deaths that have been for their medicals, that have been feeling absolutely perfect and go to doctors for their medicals, their once a year checkups, or they have a complaint and they go and they say, but they can find nothing wrong with them. So there hasn't even been a diagnosis.
Yeah.
In a lot of them, they say you hundreds. And then we hear about people so often that do a bit of exercise or sometimes not even do a bit of exercise and they just drop dead. There clearly was a problem that hasn't been detected. And I've noticed so many as well when they can't find a diagnosis and the people have these repetitive symptoms that sometimes they say, well, you know, maybe you need to see a psychologist or psychiatrist because they almost think that they're almost creating, absolutely, creating these conditions. But it's such a real situation. And then when we hear, on the other hand, where there are diagnoses being made, and unfortunately the ones we see is where they're not correct.
So the diagnosing is a big mess. It's a big mess. And I remember when I was reading the scale of the illnesses that cause death, but this was an American statistics. The mistakes, both in terms of wrong diagnosis or lack of diagnosis and wrong treatments, is at the third. Wow! At so high up. Well, I don't know in South Africa, but I'm talking about a first world country where you expect to have better,
correct, absolutely,
options. So what I'm getting at is, it's a big problem. Yeah. It's a big problem, and you can't say, like you have said, it's a big problem to diagnose incorrectly. It's a big problem not to diagnose when there is a problem. It's a big problem either way.
All the way around.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you are safe when they say you are okay. Because I come across a lot of people that, as I say, that come with and others who say, they say I'm fine, but what there has to be an explanation of the pain that I'm experiencing.
Correct.
They can't just say you are fine, because if I was not experiencing a symptom, probably I would go along with that.
Precisely.
But even in cases like that, you'll see that I will come across cases where a person comes because of the foot. That's a problem, but does not experience any other thing. But I pick up serious problems elsewhere. And then you find, particularly with these aneurysms, where you find that a person says, no, my bra is pinching me. So they never know that it's actually aneurysm, which may complicate or might even rupture. And they're sitting with it. They think, it's the bra. When they get home, they just release the bra and they take it off, because then they feel better. They don't know it's not the bra.
Actually what it is.
It's actually an aneurysm. It's that artery that is bulging out, which can rupture at some point once it gets too bulgy.
And it could be fatal.
But they haven't come for that. They're wondering why the foot is paining like that. Because those aneurysms on both sides, thoracic aortic aneurysms, the heart pumps into those arteries. But because the heart is struggling so much to push those volumes, so the peripheral areas are not receiving. So they're wondering, why am I feeling so much pain? But remember, they've only come for the pain that they're feeling on the foot.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the problem, which might even be fatal, is actually sitting right there, and they don't know it's a problem. They think it's the bra. So what I'm getting therefore is the fact that the diagnosis. Before you talk treatment, Carol, diagnosis is paramount.
Absolutely.
I think conventional, even in their training, in their formation of medical practitioners, they need to do better than they're doing, because there is a big of lack in that regard.
But Tammy, just getting back to the diagnosis again, when we see the conventional and they have a neurologist and they have an ENT specialist and they have cardio specialists and they have all these different specialists that specialize obviously for their particular organ of preference. But when I look at how you diagnose, you are all those specialists in one person, because you're just talking about a foot, where they're experiencing pain in a foot. Now, if these people went to see their GP and they said they've got terrible pains in their foot, they're going to say, oh, maybe we need to send you to an orthopedic. So if they would go to an orthopedic at additional cost and then have x-rays of the foot and then to go back for their results and then to find out that
there's nothing wrong.
Correct.
That causes the foot
Precisely.
to behave.
But we've also seen a lot of cases where people have had unnecessary surgery due to facts like feet.
Most people would tell me that they say, I've got a pinched nerve. So then they end up going for operation
to release
the pressure on the. Meanwhile,
that
nerve is that they're working on is not the cause of it. And then they say, I'm sitting with the pain, and then I'm still sitting with the foot.
Correct.
So I cannot stress more the importance, and like I'm saying that it goes back to the formation of these medical practitioners, that I don't blame them, Carol.
Sure.
I don't blame them, because if you look at their training does not provide for that. All that they do is just to test for that
particular organ that they seem to.
They make you breathe. But what does that tell you, really? I mean, because even in some cases when they make you breathe, they can't even pick up that there's a problem in most cases with the heart. Because I find a lot of people, when I ask, have you been for cardiac? No, because there's no reason for them to go. They don't. Then you're looking at that heart and you say, you should be under a cardiologist.
Wow.
Because you find that people with heart problems, if there is no pain, sharp pain, or arrhythmia, or palpitations or whatever, people don't realize that with congestive heart failure, you don't experience, in most cases, those things.
Yeah.
You're just drowsy, you're just tired and happily drowsy.
Wow.
And that heart is going.
Absolutely.
That heart is going.
And this is what you see all the time. I'm just thinking of these things where people are tired, or you think that you've had a heavy weekend and you're a bit lethargic. And it could be the heart. This could be a situation where it's a life and death situation. Maybe I remember quite a while ago, there was one of my relatives that were in hospital. And I remember there was a Chinese gentleman in the bed opposite, in a private hospital as well. And they were giving him blood, and I was there quite often to see my relative. And I would see all the time there was like a new sachet of blood. And like, I'd say to him, well, how many of this poor man had today? And the one day alone he had 3. Now, they could not find why this man was losing blood. And I mean, in this day and age, you would think there is the circulatory system, that if there is a leak or from an injury, that there's bleeding into a muscle, but tell me, they couldn't find it at all. And he had been there for several weeks, not days, weeks. And I mean, they were actually at their wits' end. They didn't know what to do. The medical aid was getting depleted, and all these tests and probes and scopes, and they could not find out what was wrong. Your opinion on that? What do you think could have been wrong?
Well, a couple of things could have been wrong. Before I even answer you, I come across cases of people that have got gastric pools of blood, and I look at the stomach, and I see that it's sitting with so much blood, and the person is not even aware.
Do they have discomfort?
Well, you find that they have some. They say the stomach feels heavy. Others don't feel they feel some discomfort. Others say it feels heavy as if I've drank too much water. Others you find, then I would ask if you relieve yourself, number 2, do you sometimes notice your stools dark, like as though you've had spinach? And they say, yeah, most of them actually do, that they notice that. Because your blood, your system will try to release it and all that. But then the thing with people, I'll tell what I've picked up to be the causes. But people that sit with that kind of receiving that, that kind of blood that is sitting there, which should not be sitting there. You find that I would tell them that, if you were to have an operation, an abdominal operation, you would bleed so much they would not know where that blood is coming from. Because then that would be a port through which that body will release. Because that blood is not supposed to be sitting. I tell them that. And I remember once when I watched, I don't know if it was Dr. Oz, but there was a show that I watched once, where this surgeon was saying he was operating on this man. And then while he was busy with the operation, blood just came out from nowhere. And he said it was a lot of blood. And he said he had just finished suturing him back, But then he said there was just blood. And he said, I just stood there and I prayed. And I prayed because my fear was this man is going to die from bleeding and is going to die on the operating table. So he said, all I did was, I just stood there, helpless, and I prayed. And then he said, all of a sudden, blood just stopped on its own. He said, till today, I don't know what happened. Not only in there's a scientific explanation for that, Carol. There's a scientific explanation for that. Like these cases, this for instance, take a case that I'm talking about, where I would find a person is sitting with a pool of blood and I say, if you were to have an operation, you would just bleed. It's cases like that, where they don't know you're sitting with pockets of blood in your...
But as you're speaking now, you're thinking of so many people that go in for operations and never come out. And you're thinking to yourself, now these thoughts are going through my mind, because I know of a few cases where people have gone in to have surgery and it's always been small surgery, not major surgery, and they just don't recover, or they just don't come out of the anesthetic. They pass away. And when you're saying this now, it starts putting thoughts in your mind of what could have gone wrong.
But this is what could. While I was explaining, I remember also another client of mine who, from Iceland, he had this same condition that caused this kind of pockets of blood that just sit somewhere. And his wife said to me that at some stage they were sitting in the lounge and then there was just blood that came out of his shoe. He said that he took off his shoe and there was just blood that was piling up in his shoe, which was coming from his foot. They don't know where it was coming from. He was taken to hospital. They didn't know how. She said, he almost died from bleeding and nobody knew where that blood, they didn't even know where to do the operation or what. So they had to just try and stop the bleeding. And she said it took forever. He even lost a bit of consciousness at the time from the amount of bleeding. She said till today. So when I was explaining to them what was happening, then she said, my God, now it makes sense.
Absolutely. Scary.
So what is the possibility, even with this person that you're talking about?
Correct.
There is a condition which is called antiphospholipid syndrome. Okay, now antiphospholipid syndrome is an autoimmune disorder that damages the blood proteins that control the clotting system. You know, the clotting factor. So it damages those proteins. Now remember, those proteins, it's the liver that produces those proteins. But then on the other side, you've got the platelets. Remember, the blood itself is a function between your liver with all those blood proteins and your platelets that produce the thickening of that blood.
Okay.
So, but now antiphospholipid messes up the clotting system. It will, and remember, and when you cannot thicken, when the blood cannot thicken, you will keep bleeding.
Then you just continue to hemorrhage.
You will just continue to hemorrhage, yeah. So whether the hemorrhage is small, the hemorrhaging is occurring on a small scale or a big scale, but it's not really on a big scale. But you'll find also people with antiphospholipid, while they tend to bleed in certain areas, sometimes it will, but it's mostly in the abdominal because of gravity, because it pulls down, of gravity. So you find abdominal or in the limbs. You find that there's like this man that all of a sudden his shoe was just full of blood. So because of that. So that's what happens, that when you're not making enough, in fact you're making platelets, but because of antiphospholipid syndrome, then it's interfering with that process. Then you don't have enough, and therefore you will have pockets of blood that will not thicken enough to end up joining the system properly. Okay. So it does antiphospholipid syndrome such that you'll find people with antiphospholipid, they tend to be anemic. But you'll find also those that are pregnant, women who have got antiphospholipid syndrome, they miscarry all the time. For the same reason.
Sure.
So that is the answer that I could be thinking of. But also the another possibility would be a ruptured aneurysm. But which is just a leakage. Okay, because you will find other people where it's not now antiphospholipid. Now remember, before I come to the aneurysm, antiphospholipid will not only cause people to have a thin blood, but it also does create clotting, where you find it takes the other end of the scale. And then you end up having clotting. Those people that are on warfarin or taking Disprin, and it's not known why their blood tends to thicken. Why do they form clots so easily? Antiphospholipid does that. And you might find other people that tend to bruise, to have bruises on the skin. They don't know, they didn't bump on anything, but then they've got bluish patches.
You see often elderly people where a lot of bruising comes through the skin.
Yes. So that is your antiphospholipid syndrome. So that could be one of the problems. Okay. But also, like I'm saying, that people that have got a leaking aneurysm, an aneurysm that is ruptured, because remember, aneurysm, you're sitting with pockets of blood also, not because of antiphospholipid now, but because that vessel has bulged out, so it's sagging, so it's holding the pockets. It's filling up with pockets.
It's literally a pocket.
It's literally a pocket.
Wow.
So then you find that with the weight, and then you find it might rupture, but sometimes you find the rupture is not a big one. Because with the big one, you die quickly.
Sure.
I tell people all the time, and like I say, that you find a person says, no, it's my foot, if you can just fix my foot. And you're looking at this aneurysm and you're saying,
oh my word.
This person has got no clue that with the level of the bulging that you're looking at, if it were to rupture,
life-threatening.
Within 2 hours, you are toast. It's quick. Because particularly when you have those big ones. But when you have the small ones, where it's just a leakage, you find it's like a slow puncture. That way you find that air keeps coming off slowly, so you can travel quite a bit of distance and get to the garage. Whereas the one that's like quick,
instant, you don't have much time.
You don't have much time. So that's what happens. So a person might have a small leakage because of aneurysm, and then you're losing slowly. You keep losing, but then that blood is sitting. But also the risk there, you don't know where it's going to bleed.
That's what I was thinking, yes.
You don't know where it's going to bleed. It depends on where the aneurysm is. because in some organs you might not even get a chance of it sitting, like in your stomach. Fortunately, the stomach is a cavity.
Sure.
So it holds a bit more,
Mm.
or it might be in your bladder, or it might be in your uterus, and then so that's I mean, those are the most likely explanations that that you have. But then you can do so much, because that space, you can do so much. But then you find the body will also try to release, like I'm saying, that you find people that have dark stools.
Yes.
Those dark stools, that's that blood, that body is trying to eliminate through that. You might even notice the urine, that you find people tend to see that their urine gets a bit darkish.
That must be a bit of a scare then. They would think it's something else.
Yeah. And so when you are having a release, when you've got those pockets, it's actually in your favor that you release that blood.
Sure.
Yeah, it's actually in your favor. So even with this doctor that I'm talking about, this surgeon who, it was, the reason why it stopped, it was not maybe because he prayed very fervently.
Absolutely.
It was because that pocket that was sitting with that blood had emptied. So there was no more.
There was no more there.
No more there.
Okay.
So, and that's why it was not, there was no complication with this person, like maybe you see that this person is, because it was not like they were bleeding out. It was, they were releasing blood that was sitting there, which was not supposed to be. So it was actually good for that blood to.
But it's must be quite daunting and quite confusing to think there's this huge gush of blood and all of a sudden it stops. You think, well,
you've prayed.
Such a logic, absolutely.
Which is good anyway. Prayer.
I'm sure there's nothing wrong with prayer.
Yeah, always good.
But how confused they must be for all of a sudden to have this stop and not to know where it was, where it came from. I think also getting back to all the different specialists and all the different doctors, we need more where they actually put the whole body in the frame.
I think that's their biggest weakness. If they were to have diagnostic tools that would be able to look at the body as a unit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, then it would be, because that's my advantage.
Yeah.
That I can see the body as a whole. Hence, I can see you've got a pain there.
Yeah.
But it's coming from there.
Correct.
From that heart or whatever. So it's they need to revisit. Well, of course, I mean, I cannot. Who am I to tell them that? But that's the.
But it's quite a difficult thing to actually put together if you think about it, because they've dissected the body to give each piece to a specialist to maintain and try and restore the health in that area. But when we look how you diagnose and you got the whole body in perspective, exactly like we've been saying, from the foot, but it's something else. So how will it ever come together if we keep everything in its own section? I even see some of the hospitals, they have certain areas, like the cardio is that side and orthopedics that side. I mean, I think, well, where do you lie in the passage? Because it's showing up in your foot, but it's actually your heart. So which wards do you need to be in?
Exactly.
You know, so it gets more and more involved, and I think that is where your success lies, in that you look at the whole body. And I think the clients are the winners in this situation, whereby by explaining their symptoms to them, they're going like, wow, absolutely, yes, it happens all the time. That is what I'm experiencing. Because if you go to a cardiologist and tell you got a pain in your foot, you're going to say, well, then maybe you should go and see the orthopedic guy. You came here for heart, so I can only do heart. But yet it's related to other areas. I think this is scary. Very scary. I can imagine the dilemma they must be experiencing, and I mean, this is not to badmouth or to be judgmental, but just the reality of the situation.
That's why I say I feel for them.
Correct.
I really do.
Yeah.
And seriously, not from a condescending perspective, but from reality.
Compassionate.
And I always tell my clients when they say, I say, do you think there is a doctor that would not want to tell you what's wrong if he knew?
Correct. Yeah.
So you must understand, if he doesn't know, he's not going to tell you anything because, I mean, what does it tell you?
Precise.
So don't, and if you look at how they do their diagnosis, they rely on that radiologist, on that pathologist,
whatever.
on that. They rely on them. So if those guys don't deliver, then they don't know what else to do. So it's a tough call.
Thembi, I know you've told me after this episode we will start season 3.
Yeah.
And the exciting thing that I am beside myself is that it's energy medicine.
Yeah.
This is something I think I actually almost get goosebumps when I actually think about it because I've seen the effects of it. But for us now and the viewers to understand, and I'm sure they do after 2 episodes and this episode, speaking about diagnosis, how it is vitally important to get that diagnosis because your life depends on it.
Yeah.
I mean, your comment on this for us, please. And then another set of 2 cases I know that you actually wanted to discuss, like the previous ones.
The 2 legs of treating a person is diagnosis and treatment. Okay. Now, diagnosis has got no bounds. It just transcends across color, professions, different sets within health of professions and all that. Because if you have got a sore eye, it is sore. Period.
Absolutely.
Whether you ask an alternative or a sangoma or a allopathic medical doctor or whether you ask who, it's because you feel the pain in the eye. So, and the important thing is before anybody can do anything is to know what's wrong, what causes that eye to be sore. So I'm just showing that diagnosis is huge in determining which way you are going to go, success or the other way.
That's your beginning point.
That's the beginning point. That's the beginning point. And as long as you don't get that right, you are in it for the long haul. So that's the emphasis that I want people to and that's where we have excelled. Even when because
100%.
Like we've said, treatment, you can refer someone to there or there or there. That's why I find even most health practitioners don't even treat. They will say particularly conventional, they tell you what's wrong, then they refer you to that one, go to the chemist, get this medicine, go to that. Because their part really is just to find out
one function.
what's wrong.
Yeah.
What's wrong? Then they can send you to someone to fix that which they've discovered to be wrong. So that applies to everybody. You've got to make sure you do find out what is wrong and find the real thing that is wrong. That's why with this energy medicine, because in that type of medicine, we're focusing more on the energy.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back after the break.
Are you sick and every doctor in town does not know what's wrong with you? Don't throw in a towel. There's hope for you. Health Haven Clinic will amaze you with their ability to diagnose and treat successfully. A clinic that does what doctors can't do. For bookings, call 041 484 1555. You won't be sorry.
Health Haven has done it again.
What is this? A massage chair?
Definitely not. This is the first oxygen chair to land in South Africa. A chair that teaches the correct technique of breathing A chair that increases the vibration of your cells. A chair that transforms your health in a remarkable and unprecedented way. Have you got emotional problems? Oxygen chair. Sleeping problems? Oxygen chair. Or digestive problems? Oxygen chair. Or skin problems? Oxygen chair. Breathing problems? Oxygen chair. Inflammation problems? Oxygen chair. Erectile dysfunction? Oxygen chair. If it carries endorsement of Health Haven, then it's a good product.
Welcome back. Timmy, this is something new.
Yeah.
When you talk energy, I mean, most people would think energy.
What's
I know
that? What's
precisely,
that?
but can you equate it to, for example, like a torch? A torch has got batteries, which they call cells.
Yeah.
Okay, so those cells have to all touch in order for the light to shine. Now, we've got millions and millions and millions of cells in our bodies. Do they also need to touch, be out of the dry state or out of the wet state into the dry state so they can touch to function at optimum levels?
That is just one part.
Okay.
That's energy. That's
Right.
electric energy.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You've got solar energy. I mean, there are people that you find. I remember at some stage, I don't know if it was on this show, where I mentioned about a nun that lived for
Yes.
54 years without touching food. And she was the healthiest you could ever find.
Maybe I can imagine the viewers are going, oh no.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here? But there is, I mean, this was documented that this
This was
nun
documented.
existed. I'm
This
sure
was
it'd
documented.
probably be on Google if they hadn't have a look.
Yeah, no, well, she's not, because, I mean, I was trying to find her name because it was the book that I had then. I don't know, I lost that book. It was about different people that had the intuitive abilities and all that, and it was more from the Catholic perspective.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I couldn't find that book because I wanted to, like, talk about it. But that was 54 years. I mean, she lived for 54 years. But now the question is, how did she survive? Because all she took, she didn't drink, she didn't eat. It was not just food, it was drink. She was not
And
drinking.
water, you mean?
I mean water.
Wow.
She was not drinking and she was not eating.
Okay.
All that she was receiving on a daily basis was the Holy Communion. That's all that she put in her mouth. The rest, nothing. Because she had been divinely exposed to accessing food and water directly from the sun. Solar system.
This is amazing.
Directly from the sun. And I remember in that book when she was asked the fact that she had been given the secret. Why was she not helping people that were starving in all these countries? Why would she not release? And she said, you must remember, food comes from God. This solar system comes from God. The mechanics of creating food, that is given by God. But He has created all the systems that make sure that we do as He expects us. For instance, the fact that we've got to work. That comes from Him. That is an expectation from Him, that you work to provide for yourself. There's the earth that He has given to us, the land. She said, everything that you see comes from Him, but He decides how. And because He has got certain expectations, there's something that you need to do in order to earn, and so on and so on. So in my case, He gave me this, Allah opened me to this secret for reasons best known to Him. So that, because also you can imagine, other people are eating the big steaks and the big chops and the all the lekker food and the sweet and the sour and the whatnot, savory and all, and enjoying their bodies. they're enjoying to the full, let alone that they're getting sicker and sicker because food is
From it.
Food, yeah. But that food has been given by God so that people can enjoy. But she's deprived of that. So it's not like she sees people eating, she doesn't feel anything. But can you imagine that when it started, she must have felt, because you look at that, because the brain is used to eating that piece of
Programmed,
meat.
yes.
So you want to eat. So in a way, it was some kind of a lifetime teaching of abstinence.
Sure.
That you had to abstain for life.
Wow.
And in service, as a service to God. So that she doesn't worry about food. She worries about her prayer life, about her tasks that were assigned to her as this particular nun. So the part of giving the body pleasures, enjoying that, and was taken away from her. So that was what she said, therefore, that all the food comes from God. And I would be working at cross purposes with him if I interfere with the plan that he has for humanity and for each individual. That's why you find others have got all the access to all the food. Others are so deprived. That's all part of his plan.
The divine
Bad
plan.
to others, good to others, others by choice to abstain, others because they don't have a choice, they're poor, others. So it's all a big matrix that is controlled by him. So what I'm getting at therefore is that the energy, we've got different types of energies that make up energy medicine. The acupuncturists, for instance, they don't give you a pill. They come with those needles. They put in all the pressure points. That's energy. Okay. So there are so many types of energy, of health modalities that fall within energy medicine. But pranic healing, for instance, that's energy. So we've got a lot of those that fall within this. And Carol, once you get to that, it's actually at a higher level. Energy medicine is at a higher level than corporal, than allopathic, than
sure.
physical.
Okay. But something a little more difficult for people to understand.
Yeah.
Because it's a whole, I think just a whole alternate is scrambling a lot of minds. Now we're saying energy. They're going like, so what are they going to do? They're going to stick your finger in a plug. How do we do this energy? But this will all be revealed in our season 3.
But in our case, we will be using the electrical energy. We won't be using your pranics, your solid, no. Because like I say, there are different energies. I don't claim to know about all of them or even about half of them. I don't even know how some of these, but the ones that we have selected at Health Haven is electrical energy of the body, which is something that's still scientific, but then
But Tammy, you obviously must have all the information that goes with it to actually inspire you to select these certain ones.
Yes.
So they've given you enough evidence.
Yeah.
And together with your knowledge that is divinely guided to start with, the collaboration of the two is going to be the benefit for our clients.
And it's going to be a huge benefit. And what is nice about it is that there's not a lot of pills that people are going to be swallowing.
Yeah.
It's more the oxygen, which we have mechanics of, like with these chairs that we're talking about.
Yes.
These are the devices that will increase the voltage. We will still be having something concrete that we will use to increase voltage in that particular area. So even though we're using electrical energy, which you can't really touch, you can't really in the body, but you can touch in a way because electricity you can
feel it.
You can feel, you can experience. So we're using those kind of energies. People mustn't think we like, because I remember one lady from Swaziland. She was in the scan in Joburg. And then she says, after I told her about the results, and she says, "You mean you picked up all these things that you're telling me about from what? From that thing from that where you put your feet in?" And I said, "Yeah." And then she said, and then I said, "Where did you think I was getting it from?" She said, no, I thought maybe you've got spirits that you communicate with that that tell you what's wrong and maybe you were getting from that. I said, no, I mean, I get I said, you saw they take pictures, they bring the phone to me, and I can put it on a big screen, I can use the small, that's immaterial, but I see, just like your doctors will on ultrasound will do an x-ray and put it, and then you come. I say, it's exactly like that. But it's just that it looks silly, because you just put it. She said, do you believe in Jesus Christ? Are you a Christian? I mean, because she was kind of baffled.
I think she was trying to understand, put everything into
Could
perspective.
I be using maybe some forces or to tell me like Sangomas do, like maybe so, because Sangomas they do
But I think
consult.
this is all to do with your reputation that precedes you, because they've heard of these miraculous things and saying, but how does she do it?
Yeah.
So when this lady came, she was going to find out one way or another, what are you using?
No,
because
they do.
the recommendations are there. People
Exactly.
have experienced this. So when they come to experience them for themselves, I think that's their hour with you. They're gonna find out exactly what is going on here.
Others tell me that when you put me, then I saw all the shapes and all things that were happening, and I was praying. She said, I was praying so much that Lord, please protect me. But they think about all sorts of
You
things.
can understand it because they've never experienced anything like this, and they must be sitting there thinking, oh my word, what have I done? And then being a bit skeptical, and then they get their results, and that's when you actually see them relax and go, this is where I needed to be. But you could see the looks on some of the faces, because it almost seems too good to be true.
Yeah.
Think the two cases that you were going to tell us about. I know the previous two were about TB, where one had been diagnosed and one hadn't been diagnosed, and the complications thereof. What is the common denominator with the two that you're going to be sharing with us today?
Okay, the two that I want to share about today, it's actually a problem of the lymphatic system in both of them. All right. And they came close to one another.
I think maybe before you start, just explain a little bit about the lymphatic system and what it does.
Okay.
To give the viewers just a clearer picture of that.
All right. The lymphatic system is actually a very, very important system in the health of everybody.
Maybe, I think it's an area that not many people actually hear about. The lymphatic. You hear about the blood system and the brain, but the lymphatic, it almost seems to be new as far as people going and researching.
It is.
So I think that's why it's so important that you just give us a bit of a lesson.
No, it is. I've seen that a lot, that when you talk about that, but you'll find that when I talk about the immune system, people know the immune system.
Yeah.
Then they say, it's low, that's I mean, that's the first thing that comes to mind. Once you talk about the immune system, people think, it means it's low. Because that's the only thing that they understand about it.
If you had a high immune system, you'd be healthy.
Yeah, we wouldn't talk about it.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So but people do know about the immune system. So the lymphatic system is the immune system. Okay. It's your system that defends you. It's your system that identifies anything that is wrong, that should not be in your body. It's the system that determines what food. I mean, people think it's just even the food that you're eating, whether it should be absorbed or it should be kicked out of your system. It's the immune system.
Wow.
That's the system that controls that, that determines that. So it determines everything. It's the system that, like I said that time already, that identifies all the scavengers, even the cancer cell.
Jamie, this sounds like what you're describing is one of the most important systems.
It's so important, Carol. It's
one that we've really been not exposed to so much, or informed about, or taught about. But just what you're describing now, I'm going like all the things you're covering. To me, this is like the thermometer of the body.
Yeah.
Wow.
It tells you
this is hectic.
things, and it fights. It doesn't just tell you. it fights, it has got different types of white blood. It's the system of white blood cells, the different types, okay? And it's so complicated and it's so interesting, it baffles you how it works, how it identifies what should do what at a given point. Even those antibodies that you find they get released, they're from that system where it says, go there, there's trouble there. And then those antibodies, they come and they fight, and then they get killed there, and then you get a bundle of them, then you end up a combination of that with the infection or whatever, and then you end up having all the inflammation. It's that system that keeps sending those missiles to say, go and fight there. It's the system that makes sure you go to the loo and release the urine, the bowel, the skin, it's a sewerage. It's your sewerage system.
Even from perspiration.
From perspiration.
Wow.
It controls your drainage. If you've got too much fluid, that system. So hence you find that most people that have got issues with that lymphocytic system, they will have problems of night sweats particularly. They will sweat quite a bit, especially at night. Sometimes it might just be too much heat. They don't end up sweating. But in most cases, they sweat. Okay, so that is the system that is controlling all that. But now, people that tend to have swollen glands, and you find that I've had people saying I've been a victim of glands swelling for years, and they don't know what's going on. People that tend to have boils or growth under the the armpits or in their groin area and or abdominal. That's the lymphatic system, because it's got so many nodes that the way it dumps into and when
the elimination areas,
the collection sites.
Okay.
Because it doesn't have a complete cycle, just like your blood circulation system. So it's got a half cycle, so that is why it's got damping places. And that's why you find people tend, even a child grows, they tend having tonsils. They tend to have tonsils all the time, because that's the damping place of the collection system of this lymphatic system. So that is the system that is your bodyguards. That is the system that makes sure you are all right. Okay. But in conjunction with other systems.
Sure.
So when you've got problems of that system, you might even end up with what we call lymphoma, okay, which is cancer of the white part of the lymphocytes, cancer of the white blood cells, okay. Like, with leukemia, it's cancer of the blood, red blood cells. Now, the lymphoma is cancer of the white ones. Okay. So that it is that system, therefore, which is, you've got to have your system, a lymphatic system working in order to be sorted, to be fine. But now, that system does not have, but it's got its own vessels, and in the body, it is the volumes of the lymph fluid are actually almost 5 times the amount of blood we have in our bodies. Okay. So when we think, because I know that people, when I tell them this, is like, because people think it's the blood that carries the highest volumes. It's not.
You would think, yeah.
It's your lymph fluid.
It's amazing.
It's your lymph fluid that is collecting all the time. It's even assisting even that blood, to collect even in other areas. But like I say, it dumps. Then your complete elimination system, your blood, then will collect from there and eliminate. So that is the system. But now that system does not have valves. Those lymph vessels don't have valves. So the lymph fluid depends on movement to move, and it moves from bottom up instead of moving from bottom, like from top bottom, like the blood is doing. So it moves from bottom up. Hence, you'll find that people with this might end up having the lymphedema, those swollen legs,
yes.
and tend to have abdominal pockets of damping of and swollen lymph nodes because it moves from down up.
Wow.
Hence, you find that that trampoline, that bouncing is very important for all of us, not only for people who might have issues with lymphatic. For everybody, bouncing should be
part of it.
A daily.
Debbie, just stopping you there to understand a bit more. I know they talk about when your body's in the wet state and the dry state. Is this when all those dumping grounds have got the sluggish liquid?
Yes.
And then by not jumping so much, but
bouncing.
Where you just literally just moving the body, then that would actually release the blood proteins that are trapped.
Yeah.
And then the cells would touch and the elimination would take place. Is this how it actually...
That's what it... Because even, remember those blood proteins? The liver produces a lot of those blood proteins. Your albumin, your fibrinogen, and your globulin. And those blood proteins have got... They are the ones that maintain fluid within the blood.
Okay.
Yeah. But once you've got in, the texture is good enough. Okay, which is why I was talking about earlier, we were talking about bleeding because of antiphospholipid. The liver is squarely involved in controlling that blood.